Hi, I'm Tealish, and you're watching Coffee and Clix. Today we welcome Jordan Hoffee. So we're having a coffee with Hoffee today. He is a member of the HeroClix community, a podcast contributor as well, and also a maker of 3D maps, three-dimensional maps. So welcome, Jordan. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me. Excited to
Yeah,
be here.
yeah, absolutely. So Jordan, could you tell us a little bit about your podcast contributions? I heard. I mean, you had reached out to me and told me that you are you contribute on a different podcast, non
Yeah.
HeroClix related. I'm not sure.
No, yeah, it's called Showboys Podcast. So showboysmedia.com. They do basically anything TV, video game, movie related. And I particularly I'll show up on the pop culture, comic book style, whatever, lots of that going on right now, but those are the shows that I'm mainly on.
And so you are like the comic book expert on that show.
Yes, self-ordained comic book expert.
Okay, okay. Um, and so what about your HeroClix experience too? So like tell me about your history playing HeroClix or your history with comic books in general. Like, what got you into comic books? What got you into HeroClix? Um, tell me about your play group. Like, where are you based out of, and who do you play with, and stuff like that.
No, absolutely. It's a great question. So I'm from Canton, Ohio, and so Football Hall of Fame here. A lot of great local lot of great local comic book stores and board game stores. But I've basically been a superhero fan my entire life. I'm sure you probably hear that a lot. But my first jump into comic books was probably Dark Horse, Alien vs Predator. Way too young to be reading it kind of thing, but I was reading them, and those are my first comic book things. And it kind of grew into Marvel and DC, but even prior to that, I was playing with like DC superpower toys and the early '90s X-Men TV show toys. So I've always been around it. It wasn't until probably like 16 years ago I started collecting comic books pretty heavily, and it just spiraled into just the history of comic books and the whole shebang. And that ran parallel with getting into wargaming heavily with Warhammer 40K, and we loved building the boards for that, and we grew up building train layouts and such. So that whole terrain aspect is something I've always had a passion for. And when I discovered HeroClix and I fell into HeroClix, which was probably the first event I played in was War of Light. So prior to that, we were just opening, bricks like madmen and just seeing what there is in the world. The glory days of getting into the game. You don't know what's out there and what you're going to find in each brick, but that was really the jump into HeroClix, and we kind of brought that 3D passion of just building those boards and just kind of adding to the thematics into HeroClix, and that's I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah, and I mean, that sounds great, and I mean, like, I'm really interested in those the three-dimensional maps and all the custom things that you mentioned. You have you play on those type of maps when you're playing HeroClix. What are your favorite like formats to play?
So a lot of times, if I had to jump into a format, like if I went to like, let's just say like, Gen Con or something like that, obviously I like the battle royales because you just jump in and have fun. What we would generally do is, just build 300-point armies, maybe 600-point armies, and just go to the death. And it would just wipe the board. But these days, I think a lot of players were kind of like subconsciously always playing like themed format that's out now.
Yeah.
And that's really, no matter what we did or what we built, especially with the 3D boards, you wanted to kind of fit with the thematics of it. And we've always stuck with theme teams. And that's, to this now with these new formats, I would say themed and pulp. We're huge fans of pulp and themed. We've worked them into like our weekly or bi-weekly games every time now. We have like one game where it's just all out, whatever you want to bring, Golden Age style. And then we have a theme and also a pulp game.
Cool. So, like, but do you normally play modern or Silver Age or Golden Age?
So generally these days it's modern, but I honestly, if you sat down with us and you had some Golden Age stuff, it's fine. As long
It's
as it
fine.
fits the theme. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
we're
I mean,
pretty casual.
also, yeah. So I mean, these 3D boards. Do you have one at the store that you play with?
So we really just get together at Tim Crown's house. It's the guy who does a lot of the 3D printing and some of the woodworking for it before we actually, start building them and designing them and such. We really meet there usually and play, but we have boards kind of sprinkled throughout the different places in Canton here. So wherever we go, we can actually play. The one 3D map for it's Paradise Island, Themyscira, whatever you call it, that actually fits into a case to bring around, so I can literally hold it with one hand, and the map breaks down to 4x4 squares, and all the terrain piles on top of that, and it's really mobile. I actually attended the convention here in Columbus. I don't know why the name escapes me, but I actually brought it in a backpack, and I was able to play with some of the HeroClix players down there, and WizKids gave me some prizes to give away and stuff. It's pretty fun.
Is that Origins you're talking about, or in
Origins, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Origins. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, like, let's dig deeper into the the 3-dimensional maps that you work on. So do you work on them alone, or do you work on them with somebody else?
Generally, it's Tim and I. We're actually a member of a Facebook group called it's HeroClix 3D boards and such, I believe, and it's a really great community. You find customs on there between just maps, and then some people bring in custom just terrain pieces and some custom characters. But generally, it's just Tim and I, and we it's kind of he'll get an idea, print some stuff out, we'll get together and have a painting party, and then kind of organize the maps, and then we'll start playing on them. The greatest thing about them is how modular they are, I think. Yeah.
So you can actually transport them and bring them places.
Right. Yeah. So now the maps are 2x2s, right? So we just have a group of these, and they literally stack on top of each other, and then you can bring the terrain pieces, like we have it's like a bush, and you can see the lighting's kind of weird, but kind of goes right on there. You can build full maps out of it, and some of the pictures I sent you, like you can see like this big columns and such, but we have statues for outdoor blocking. The biggest goal that I really pride myself on when we design these maps is that if you play HeroClix, you can sit down and everything makes sense. There's water terrain. There's obviously elevated 1, 2, maybe 3. There's like the bushes, the hindering. You can stand a single base character on, no problem. Unless it's like some crazy monstrosity, like some figure will lean sometimes. But
okay, and so something like a column, would that be considered blocking, or would that be considered?
Yeah, it'd be outdoor blocking. Yep.
Outdoor blocking. Okay.
Yep.
And so if you're watching at home, just stay tuned towards the end of this video. I will post. I will have like a little bit of a slideshow. So stay tuned to stick around to look at some of those pictures that Jordan has sent me of his 3D boards, 3D maps. So I'll show them at the end of the video. He has a whole bunch of really great pictures to look at of his handiwork. And so I mean, do you sell them, or?
We've had offers. People like message us and do it. We've really just done terrain pieces individually, because you'll find a lot of people, they can kind of make the grid, the 1.5-inch squares on the grid that they want to play on, and then what becomes the next level is how do you get the right size terrain for that, and that actually apply to the rules of HeroClix. And that's where we'll sell some of the stuff, but we're not making like a business out of it. We do it just supplies and such, and we do it because some people have the thematic passion that we have for the maps. It's it's totally fine.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are gonna look at your designs and be jealous and want to buy them, but but it is cool that you're just doing it for the passion and for the fun, and that's really awesome. I mean, what was the name of your Facebook group again? That they can I can link that below.
Yeah, it's a HeroClix 3D boards and such.
HeroClix 3D boards and such. Okay, I will.
A lot of talented people on there. It's pretty pretty crazy. There's some stuff my jaw just drops when I see it. It's crazy.
I'll link that in the description below. And also, do you do any other customs other than like terrain markers and 3D boards?
We've made some cooperative scenarios. Really, so it's not like really a physical HeroClix figure, but in the fun that we kind of have as a group, we kind of wanted to figure out a way to make HeroClix cooperative and just like a fun cooperative board game. And they really apply to like a Halloween scenario. It's like a Blair Witch scenario, honestly. But it's that's really the only custom thing we've done outside of the boards and such. I mean, of course, we'll apply the wash to a figure sometimes to enhance the the aesthetics of it, but nothing crazy.
So, so what would you say are the biggest challenges to playing on a 3D map?
Oh, biggest challenges. When you come across a design idea and you want to, kind of bend it and make it into HeroClix, that's challenging because you'll find a great piece of terrain that you want to make, but does it make sense for the rules, right? Is it binary to the point to where you could just jump on and know what to do with it? I would say, like, okay, so one of the things I'm kind of toying with right now is if you look at the new starters that WizKids is releasing, they're going to be on 8x16 maps. So just basically, two of the squares side by side that come in the new starters. And I wanted to make a Lazarus pit map out of that. So very cave driven with the pit sunken in the middle, which would be like water terrain or whatever, for instance. It's challenging. Do you make it kind of raised up a little bit or do you make it sunken in? Right. So it's like, when the comics, like the way Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams did the whole run for the Ra's al Ghul, it's like, which one do I go with? So there's a little bit of a design thing that goes into it, and it's nitpicky, but it is a challenge when you like it as much as you do.
It sounds like you really are sticking to the source material with your designs.
I try to. Yeah, I do try.
And what do you do with now speaking of like rules changes and like updates with the rules, they have special terrain that you can place at the beginning of the game. Have you done any of that three-dimensionally?
We're toying with the first one we like jumped out of our seats with excitement. We're like, an anchor? Yes, we can do an anchor. It's like the first one that really popped in. But the bushes that I showed you, we can actually layer those to make them in the just side by side to do the. I think it's out of Avengers 60th that there's a healing bush or whatever. You can go next to it and heal off of it. Stuff like that. We can do the fence that's in there. It gives you energy shield deflection. But yeah, absolutely. We have our that's kind of what we're looking at right now. So I guess those would be. I consider those terrain, so I don't really, it's still the map and terrain. So, but I guess that would technically be a custom.
Okay, that's and also, I was, another thing I thought of was transition squares. So, like when you're playing on a three-dimensional map, because I've never actually played on a three-dimensional map. I have no idea. I'm sure I'm missing out on a whole lot of fun here because this sounds so much fun. It sounds like it's like a real world HeroClix. It sounds really cool. What do you do with the transitional squares, the little red arrows that are? Do you just paint them on the elevated, like on different?
No, we try to stick to another sense of logic. So we have some little ladders that can lay onto the side of buildings that you can go up. If there's one thing that we get messy on, it's those when we're setting up and just playing as a small group, because sometimes the ladders will be leaning or whatever. But there's also another sense of logic that when we talk to each other, like we'll just kind of say in the beginning, like, okay, you can transition up here and here, or if it's like a square that's just literally like a 2x2, you just simply say you can go up anyway. It's just a hill. So that it's all kind of set out beforehand. And like I said, there's never really anything particularly confusing. There's one industrial map I sent you some pictures of. We nitpick it ourselves because it actually, one of the squares is sacrificed for a set of stairs. When we're playing just, obviously super casually, we just kind of lean the action token in there and put the character side by side to it. And we just roll with it. So there is a little bit of a give and take sometime, but the majority of everything is it's pretty cut and dry. Actually, on the Themyscira map, there's in some of the pictures you'll notice that there's actually like a piece of twine hanging down from one of the it's like a gazebo type of thing, and where the piece of twine's hanging down is a rope. So it's where your character climbs up the rope, right? So we try to add logistics into it like that, and yeah, so
That's really awesome. And are there?
I will say,
Yeah.
when one of the fun things about playing on 3D boards also, when let's just say like Jimmy Olsen's on top of a building and Zod comes up and punches him off the building, all of a sudden it's like you look at these elevations and you're like, oh, I'm gonna knock him off of there because he can't fly, and it clicks in a lot faster to your mind of like, I'm gonna get that one damage, so I'm gonna knock him off this building or this hill, and it does add an extra layer of fun to that.
So do you play with any extra special rules when you play on the 3D boards? Or even,
I think
without the 3D boards, like, do you have any custom scenarios that you've played, or just special house rules that you use?
other than the cooperative scenario, we have one other Halloween scenario, and honestly, I think it might be in one of the pictures I sent you as well. But on the the AGATHA'S backyard bonfire Halloween map, we'll line pumpkins up, and you can run your character up to it, and you can do a free action, and you got to roll a d3, so 1 through 3 or 4 through 6. If it's a 4 through 6, you get to put in your inventory, and you can expend that pumpkin to use either an orange or a black power. So then you could get a free outwit. You could do whatever you want, right? Usually it's outwit. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
But if it's a one, I know if it's a 1 through,
yeah. Well, actually, that could be useful, right?
right now, I love Battle Fury.
Yeah.
Or if it's a 1 through 3, the pumpkin gets put onto an Orange Lantern token from War of Light, so it becomes an Orange Lantern construct, and basically what those do is like, let's say I take my turn, you take your turn. It's a third turn. Those constructs will move closest to the closest character to lock them up for plasticity, and try to hurt them, do poison and such.
Okay.
So that's just a fun random scenario we'll throw in for just Halloween.
Yeah, I like that. I like the Orange Lantern twist there. Like that, it's very Halloween themed.
Yeah, I like that fun.
So what goes into making a 3-dimensional board or a 3-dimensional map? Do you call them maps or boards? You call them boards?
Both really. I never really thought about that, but yeah, we use both the words for descriptions on them. But there's a couple things. So some of the earlier ones that we still use, like the Coast City one, the one that was OA, which, spoiler alert, is kind of becoming more of like a Black Lantern map right now with the new set. But those are made out of wood, obviously, with a saw that goes through it and just creates the grid. And then the terrain becomes a little bit, it's a lot larger than life terrain with that, because the grid is a little bit thicker. You have to manually texture the map with sand and glue before you paint it and such. When it comes to 3D printing, you have to upload in the software. A lot of times you have to increase the grid from like a 1-inch square to a 1.5-inch square. Sometimes add the texture to it. Maybe like the bushes, shrink them down or enhance them to actually fit into the square to make sense for the characters. And then really you design it off of that. But really, when it comes to the 3D printing side of it, you really have to pick a theme and gather a lot of different source files for that, and then print them. And then you can kind of, as modular as it is, there's so many rooms for like, oh, I'm not going to use this anymore, and you just toss it away, versus another one where you spend hours making stuff out of wood or styrofoam, and you're like, it's not going to work. There's a little bit of there's a lot of extra terrain laying around, let's put it that way.
Okay, and the terrain mostly comes from 3D printing, and the board is wood, or
well, even these are 3D printed as well, the 4x4s. Okay. And then I have
and I see, and you piece them together. Okay.
Yeah. So the squares get pieced together in the software, and you can print them that way. We can do single squares also, but then like this is made out of wood, and then we just texturize it and paint it, and Yeah.
Wait, so that's wood, but no. So the 3D printing doesn't make wood, right? Like that's plastic.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's like a filament plastic. Yeah. So you can do either one of those. What I'm saying, and we actually there's the one Themyscira board. It's like the 2x3 maps, the original size.
Yes.
That one you'll see the beach head painted onto it with the water coming up on it. That was actually a giant plexiglass board.
Oh, nice.
And then,
okay.
yeah, so we cut into that, and a lot of spray paint went into that one, trying to kill the transparency of it, but we got it.
And so with the modularness of a 3D board, the way that you make them, do you ever find that things like shift around, or do they interlock?
So when some of the boards that we have actually have a border on them. So again, some of the pictures I sent you, you'll notice that there's a frame that goes around the board, and then the 4x4 squares fit into it to make a 2x2. So that'll keep the board stable. And when you play on Themyscira, sometimes like there's some maps I have a lot of columns. I can make a crazy looking column battlefield, but when you're butterfingers going through, whether we have too much coffee or drinking bourbon or something like that, you just knock stuff over as you're trying to move your characters.
Yes, next on bourbon and Clix. Yeah.
Right. Or the classic, I'm moving my character, you pick them up, and then the tokens just drop down like bombs and just crash over all the constructs and stuff. But we try to simplify it in a way that makes sense. Like a lot of the trees, for instance, well, now obviously you can choose whatever side you want to start on, but Themyscira has one piece of terrain that has a red roof that goes on top of it, and so it can be indoor, right? You take it off, and those columns become outdoor blocking. Well, we'll move that to the one side of the map and put the trees along the edge with that, and it's kind of like no one really wants to start there because you kind of want that just to be the background of the fight scene, right? So there's a little bit. Some people will start there still, but most of the time that's how we get around a lot of it while keeping a lot of the thematic and not making it annoying at all.
Okay. So, how long does it take for you typically to make a 3D board?
Oh, depends. We've done some in about a week. It's honestly, it's hard to gauge nowadays because we will repurpose a lot, because a lot of the things that we've made mistakes on, we're like, oh, you know what, we can make a Savage Land out of this, and then we want to do that. Which, by the way, we have the volcano done, and we want to add like this the fog coming out of it. So it's kind of the next step is to get
Nice.
what do you call it? I guess the actual like weather effects and such like that. But a lot of it gets repurposed, so that kind of speeds it up, and we'll repurpose it that way. And so I would say on average for us now about a week. Even the plates get repurposed because there's somewhere like, oh, this isn't going to fit to the theme, and we'll discard the pile, and then we get an idea for that later. We're like, oh, these could be a sidewalk, and we can make something to the middle here and make like a Joker or circus creepy map, with a Ferris wheel and stuff. So there's a lot of ideas that obviously come to our mind, but so it's pretty quick these days.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
what I honestly, no, honestly, what I'd like to do is, a lot of the figures are becoming a lot like, obviously more intricate. There's a lot more of detail coming on the new models. It'd be fun to like take like just a small group of squares and make like just a theme display for a figure. So like with the Notorious set, you could have let's just say like Mr. Freeze and his two polar bears on a little ice theme display. That's something I kind of want to start dabbling in, I think.
So say that again. So
like a little display. Let's just say, let's go back to this again. Yeah. Imagine this being like ice and snow, and you have little pieces of terrain where you could have like Mr. Freeze and his two polar bear, goon characters from the Notorious set.
Okay, but not actually to play with. It would just be
display your favorite character type of thing.
Oh yeah, I love that. That sounds really cool. I like to display things. I have I have my man cave. This is it actually where I am. So I like to do that. That displaying figures is really cool. Describe your best 3D map for me. What's your favorite? What's your favorite?
It has to be. I mean, I for some reason, obviously, I always go back to Themyscira. I love painting the bright, like lush terrain with the water and the greens and the weathered columns and such. But between that and also Coast City. Coast City map's a lot of fun. Tim, he printed a lot of buildings that they go along with Marvel Crisis Protocol, and you grid them off, and you kind of just mess with the size a little bit, and they fit right into HeroClix, and that's kind of become another thing. I guess really any map, it's a beach. I guess I got beach fever. Want to go to the ocean apparently.
Yeah, I mean, once I start showing the pictures, the one that you described, the plexiglass one where you painted the shoreline, is that was that Themyscira or was that?
Yeah, that's the first
Coast City. It was Coast City. I'm not sure.
Coast City and Themyscira actually both have a beach, like a beach with water coming up on it. Themyscira in particular, obviously, will have much more of the Greek scenery going with it. Coast City has like a little bit of restaurants and like a little apartment building and such. So they're the one's obviously more modern, one's more archaic in architecture, and it's. But I would say those are probably my two favorite ones.
Yeah, they both look awesome. Yeah.
Thank you.
And well, all your maps look awesome. I actually really liked the Halloween one too because I'm a big Halloween fan, so I kind of want to run that scenario. Like
you're absolutely
sounds so good.
Do you have a Hobby Lobby where you're at?
A Hobby Lobby, yeah, I think I do. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'll send you a link for what we use for the pumpkins. We didn't actually 3D print those. I got them at Hobby Lobby, and they're perfect. So if you have the War of Light tokens, you're in business.
Okay.
As far as the orange constructs tokens go, you're ready to go then.
Okay. All right. So I think is there anything else you want to say, Jordan, about your maps, or about your HeroClix playing experience, or anything that we talked about today? Is there anything else that you want to add?
It's a if you're in Ohio and you want to play on a 3D map, you're welcome to come hang out and have some coffee and play some games, talk comic books, and roll some dice. But yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of comic books, I mean, I know you are like a self-proclaimed comic book expert. You work on that podcast, The Show Boys. If you send me that link for The Show Boys, I will link them in the description as well.
Awesome.
And I mean, because you're a comic book fan and a comic book expert, I just had a question for you. What are your top 3 favorite comic book characters?
Oh, top 3 comic book characters. Man, this is tough. I'm mainly a DC guy. I love Marvel. I have I have a wide Marvel collection, but I am a heavy DC guy. And the 2 of the ones I have behind me here, Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, is probably my number 1 favorite. Swamp Thing, and it's going to be. I mean, Batman's obviously up there. I love Batman. Loved him since I was a kid, as well as these other ones. But got to throw in Hawkman. Hawkman and Shazam are a tie for 3rd, probably.
Hawkman and Shazam. Okay.
Yep.
Are you Batman? Are you like a prep time guy? Or do you think Batman beats Superman with prep time? Or
No. I've always. I actually love Superman too. It's all the hate on Superman over the years has like made me love him even more because everyone hates him. I'm just like, what are you talking about? Yeah. And so I'm always defending him and Aquaman. It seems like, but it's no. Yeah, Superman stomps Batman. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, Batman knows it. Batman's admitted it. He's admitted it. So,
segueing in from comic books. So, what do you think is your favorite HeroClix figure of all time, or maybe the one that best represents its superhero character?
Ooh,
or it could be for another reason that you like the HeroClix figure. What's your favorite HeroClix figure?
A couple ties here. It's going to be Hal Jordan Sinestro from War of Light. That's one of my favorite pieces. Even the 300-point card is just phenomenal. I love it. That and World's Finest from the Superman Batman dual figure also. And I'm always going to love Trinity War Batman. Trinity War Batman and Trinity War Captain Thunder. Some of my favorite characters.
Oh yeah, I have that Trinity War Batman. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
I would like to see him get a legacy, actually.
Yeah, there's no reason not. I mean, he's been reused like in a play at home kit or OP kit or whatever before, but it's like so he's had other versions, but I just something about that figure. The pose is just ridiculous. It is.
That was the running shot Pulse Wave one, right? Like he had Pulse Wave and he had
he had Outwit and Perplex.
Outwit and Perplex. Yeah. He was really good.
He was expensive, but man, worth every piece of point in that. Yeah.
And then the World's Finest is great. They did a good job with his legacy.
Right. I still need to get that legacy card. I have the Hound Sinestro, but I do need to get the World's Finest legacy. So we'll trade for 3D terrain.
All right. So Jordan, thank you for joining me. I'm gonna post a link below for I'll post a link for the Showboys and for your Facebook group.
Yeah.
With all the 3D maps, and stick around to look at all of the pictures that I'm going to put at the end of this video of Jordan's handiwork, his craftsmanship on all these 3D boards that he's made. What's in my cup, by the way? I'm actually not drinking coffee. I'm drinking strawberries and cream Dr. Pepper.
Wow.
Which is a really good flavor. I love it.
Yeah. Interesting.
I tasted this at one of the state championships. They have it down in Brooklyn, in their fridge there at the New York State Championships, and it was really good. So
strawberries and cream Dr. Pepper.
Yeah. So but all right. So everybody, you can stick around to look at those pictures, but until then, wake up and smell the Clix.